doesn't mean invisible and deep thoughts deserve a mic. If you've ever felt drained by small talk, master the art of sneaking out of the room, or wish the world understood the magic of solitude, this is your space. We dive into everything from navigating social energy to embracing creativity, confidence, and the unique power of being an introvert. So get comfy, plug in, and let's turn up the volume on our quiet confidence. I'm Amber Hansel, and this is Introverts Unmuted. Today, I have with me Brittney, and she is a business coach and imposter syndrome specialist. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to dive into imposter syndrome because it is something that is continuously coming up, and it feels like an everyday practice that we have to combat almost. So tell me, what started you on into an imposter syndrome specialist?
Well, I also have a company called Creative Dynamic Virtual Services, which started to help moms work from home. And so that passion kind of went full force when I started building it. But the one thing that I noticed a lot with the moms on the team was suffering from imposter syndrome. So I just naturally became more curious as a lifelong learner of like, okay, not just a lifelong learner, but as a leader in a business, how can I support my team? How can I make sure that they're feeling heard? Because I know I also came from a very toxic work environment, and I felt like I was never heard or listened to. So I want to make sure that I conveyed that in my business as well. So that kind of navigated into the coaching realm. So now I'm a certified business coach. I went through the ICF. I'm ACC accredited. I think it might have expired now, but I've taken a lot of extra courses on that now to always keep it up if I wanted to. But long story short, I did my business coaching first, and one of the final requests was to write a paper. And because I did see all these notions of the moms struggling with imposter syndrome, I knew that I had to dig in a little bit deeper. And that's where I found Dr. Valerie Young, which I took my certification with as a certified imposter syndrome practitioner. And I like that it's an ongoing joke that I end up paying money for the certification just to figure out that I have my own imposter syndrome. But yeah, that's kind of like the venture along the way. And now I'm also a certified trauma with money practitioner. So I merge my bit in the coaching consulting realm of imposter syndrome, trauma with money, because everything kind of overlaps as we're growing a business or in a business, no matter what area you're in.
Yeah, it really does overlap. And I always say entrepreneurial is your entrepreneur journey is the biggest mindset shift you will ever take, is the biggest personal development journey, because we have these blocks that keep coming up. And imposter syndrome is such one that is probably, I guess you could say, popular, because do you find that it is like the most common one, I should say?
I would say imposter syndrome, if anything, has been brought up over the last few years more, a lot more than normal, because a lot of people just want to tap into it. But like, I want to break it. Let's maybe back up. What is imposter syndrome? It's overall saying that we're feeling like we're not competent enough and or feel like a fraud when we're trying to step into maybe our zone of genius or something different. It just kind of holds us back, making us feel like we're not worthy enough to pursue something of our business goals, or it can even fall into life. I'm a mom of 2 young kids. That's why I started Creative Dynamics too, is to help me have my own flexibility in life. But I really see, it just really all entwines together.
It really does feel like when we are starting something new, whether we're starting an online business or we're pivoting in this online space of trying something new, or, we consistently are bombarded with all of this. You need to do this. This is how you should do it. This is how I'm doing it. I'm this mom that, does all this, and I run this business, and you need to make 20K months. And so it feels like this impossibility of even doing anything some of the time.
Yes, I love to do speaking events, and I just did a talk on imposter syndrome, on how to grow a business in life and business, because they all overlap. And the one thing that I really try to make sure that everyone walked away with too is the comparison piece. Like how you just put in there of 20K months, like that stuff drives me absolutely bananas when I see people on social media promising me, the business owner, that I'm going to get you to 20K months, but you don't actually know my story. And so that's the thing why I became a business coach. And I also do consulting. So I just want to highlight, consulting is like giving you strategy advice from A to Z and everything in between. A coach doesn't really give you advice. And I think that's an unfortunate, misleading thing that we have going on right now in the world. A coach really will guide with you, like ask you curious questions to get to your goal where you want to be. And I can maybe say, I'll ask permission if I can. But really, in essence, for ethical pieces too, for the ICF, we're not supposed to give you advice. It really makes you kind of start to question and realign where I should be. That's why I like to build things holistically to a business, because I don't know how you see the business in 4 to 5 years. And we should be challenging that as a consultant and then as a coach too. But yeah, as you see, I get really passionate.
But I absolutely love it, because I'm right there with you. Like, someone else cannot tell me that they're going to promise me 20K months when they have no idea what I'm doing right now, or, my offers, my life, all the situation, but they say that I can do it. And so it is an ethical standpoint of, and the lines are getting blurred. They have been blurred, and it's, how can we, see past it and go, this is how I want to run my business, or this is the people I want to work with.
I think at first, like going back into what I slipped my mind. My ADHD sometimes goes wild when I get super passionate about something. I'm like, I want you to say this piece. But I just will add, like, your chapter 3 isn't somebody's chapter 20. So when you're on social media, you forget what sometimes we're experiencing, because you see all these pretty things on social media. We have it at our fingertips 24/7, and we kind of escape and like, oh, this person's like promised me all these things, and or look at this life. But I promise you, you don't know somebody behind the scenes. And so instead of comparing, start asking yourself why you're comparing, and make your own KPIs on yourself of like, okay, how have I grown as an individual business and or even personal life, and then in the 2 years time frame. I know for me, it's been such a transformational shift of like, I would have severe anxiety if somebody doesn't like me. Like, I'm like, oh my goodness, they didn't say yes when I gave them the proposal, or they didn't, like all the mindset pieces come and just that I'm not good enough. So it's like, how do we shift those narratives especially when you have ADHD or neurodivergent, we don't like, no. we go just a little bit on like the anxiety, like the, can't remember the name of it, but it's just kind of like the why am I not good enough? And so stats have proven that like sometimes those who are neurodivergent end up showing up with imposter syndrome a lot more than others.
Yeah, I definitely see that too. And that becomes this like a mindset spiral of like, we show up and then we, we're looking at all of this other stuff. We are consuming so much, but it doesn't have anything to do with us. We have to remember that all of the content that we consume, the majority of it is not for us. And that it is not for our brains to comprehend at that time.
100%. And also being mindful too of like the energy. So one of the things I mentioned in one of my speaking events is, yes, let's reflect on ourselves, but also how can we create a feed that doesn't trigger us? So if you find that there's certain things that trigger you because maybe it's the wording or maybe it's what they're showing you, what is that energy giving you? It's not really giving you great energy. So I think we need to be mindful of tuning out and like being mindful of how we can curate a feed that can support us up. Because if our energy shifts higher, then our vibration will shift higher too.
Yeah, I believe the mute button is such a great aspect. Like, yes, you still want to follow that person, but maybe right now they're not for you. And so hitting that mute button to really, curate your feed is going to help you, because yes, the energy that you have and that you're receiving is going to go back out. And so I would say, make sure that your energy before you get online is where you want it to be, so that we can have the energy to give.
Yes, 100%.
So during your time in doing a lot of working with moms in this space, imposter syndrome is such a convoluted topic, because there's so many different aspects to it. So how do you kind of break it down simply for us to say, yeah, I'm going to take the next step and not, spiral?
I think the first step really, so I work with a range of individuals, not just moms, but I do a lot of speaking topics with moms. And I'll just go through like the different characteristics. Is like the perfectionist. So feeling like we need to show up perfectly. And if we don't show up perfectly, then we'll feel like we're incompetent. The superhuman, the super mom, doing it all. And if we can't do it all, then we feel like we're not competent. The stylist is the fear of asking for help. And if we ask for help, then we feel like we're a fraud. So like, as you can see, as I know us as moms, we end up wearing all these different hats. Another one is the natural genius, that feels like it should just naturally come to us. For me, like I fell in the range of the perfectionist and the natural genius. I think it's because I've always been like I had to always prove my worth in the classroom with my learning disability. And so I was like, okay, so I have to be perfect to get straight A's, like the graded system. And then the other piece is the natural piece, natural genius. I need to show up confidently in a room and make sure I have all these certifications. That's why it's an ongoing joke with my family. I could have been a doctor by now, because I have so many certifications. It's quite bananas, but I'm also a lifelong learner and I crave it. But it's once you notice like where you show up in those different pillars, then you can start questioning how you can quiet those noise.
Yeah, and I think that is such a great place to start, is really identifying who you are and perhaps where you fit into those pillars, so that we can take it from there. And I know that can be hard, as perfectionists and as all of these different pillars, is really about finding our voice and finding our confidence within them. So how do we, as introverts, as neurodivergents, really find our voice or confidence within these different aspects?
Yeah. So one, I think it's important to name the imposter syndrome. Sometimes I've seen some people name it. So if you name it, then you can call it out when you see it. But then it's also doing the reframe of negative self-talk. Sometimes we self-sabotage ourselves. So for example, like I say sorry a lot. Sorry, my sentence, just like it naturally just throws in, and it devalues our confidence. And so I've been working on how do I stop using like extra filler words that devalue and self-talk myself. And it takes practice. Like it's not going to happen overnight. Like this business has been around for 7 years almost in January, and I'm constantly still working on my confidence and how I show up in the room. And also when the introvert self comes out, because I'm an introvert extrovert. So when the introvert piece comes out for me, I can see me like crawl into the corner sometimes. No one talk to me. I need a minute. And I think it's sometimes for those individuals who are introvert extrovert and you need a minute to step back, it's okay to give yourself that permission, because sometimes we don't give ourselves those permissions and we push ourselves further than we need, and we end up burning out. So in essence, it's like finding where you are in the mindset, because some of us can be very negative in the self imposter pieces. And that's unfortunately where you need to kind of dig a little bit deeper. And do I need to actually get help from a therapist a little bit here? Because coaches, we don't go in the deep rooted, because some imposter syndrome things can come into from childhood trauma. Like I mentioned, we have a lot of childhood trauma in the school system with my learning disability. So if those things are coming up for you and you can't move that needle forward, then start asking yourself, do I need more help over here? Another piece is create a brag file, I like to call it. What are things that you've done? And I everyone's probably who's listening, they're like, I don't have a brag file, or what does that even mean? I know I still struggle with this today, but like, I'll give you an example. Like Creative Dynamics, we won our very first award with Entrepreneurial and Verizon being the best business services in US and Canada, which is really big. And I don't really like talking about it because it makes me feel uncomfortable. But when things are like that are making you feel comfortable, I want you to challenge and question yourself, why? Why does it make me feel comfortable? And for me, it's just like, oh, I feel like it's not enough, or it's not worthy enough for me to highlight that. And that's where the imposter syndrome pieces is coming back in. So it's really pushing yourself on changing those narratives and what we tell ourselves the subtle languages.
Yeah, I think, first of all, congratulations, because that is a big deal, but it is hard to talk about our celebrations and our wins, but most importantly, to celebrate ourselves while we are having those. We push them under the rug, oh, I got new clients, or I won an award, and we're like, yeah, great. Okay, next thing. But we don't sit in that. And so it's really is, like you said, important to sit with that uncomfortable moment and dig in and go, I can celebrate myself. I am worthy of this because of the work that I've done. And so really having, that brag file of great things people have said about you, your awards, to really look back and celebrate those can shift that mindset and bring out a more positive energy.
100%. And I always like to throw some stats and this is where the nerdy me comes in a little bit. So imposter syndrome, it has been found to show up in kids as young as age 6. So we need to start questioning, when has it showed up for me when I was still younger, when I was young? When did I start second guessing my self-doubt and or confidence and all the things? So if you look deeper in the background, like you can see that these pieces came forward in the mindset a little bit for us as young as age 6. So we need to start seeing, like, when you're like, oh, I haven't pushed myself out of the comfort zone on, or really rock the mindset for imposter syndrome, it's going to take time. If science is showing us that it showed up as young as age 6, so I don't know where it will show up in each person, but it just makes you kind of question, like, okay, I'm like needing to peel back more of the onions here and really start thinking of like how I can shift the mindset. Like I would say, like, I had a manager back in the day, and she was like to me, like, Brittney, you're like very negative. And I was like, oh, reality check. But I was like, oh, I didn't like realize. And looking back on it, I was like, I was pretty, I guess, like depressed in a really bad position. This is like 100 years ago now, it feels like, when I was like going into university. And you don't realize sometimes how deep you are in your mind until like somebody might question it, or they're going through the motions. And it's really the self-work to help you move those momentum pieces. If it's imposter syndrome, confidence, like all these things mixed in the mold, like it takes time. So if anyone's listening, I challenge you to just even do something once a week to make that little shift. Maybe it's writing down the brag file, like I mentioned, or maybe you find yourself always doing certain things to downplay your worth and writing them out, that I in essence, is that I am worthy to step into it.
Yeah, and it's amazing that it starts at such a young age. And as a mom of young boys, I have seen it in my younger children and went, oh my goodness. And then as a mom, that's another mindset spiral of what's happening to your children, to try and help them through it as well, and to help them improve. And if we can help them earlier, then they're not going to have to peel back as much when they are older. We can help give them the tools now to help work through that.
Yeah.
And I think, there is so many layers to us, and we sometimes will stop because it's uncomfortable. But when it's uncomfortable, I will say, yeah, the quiet darkness is uncomfortable, but that's where you need to go.
Yes.
Because that's where you will find the answers, is in that uncomfortable, quiet darkness.
100%. So, like I mentioned, I finished my certification with trauma with money practitioning. And the big thing that we talk about is you can't go into the money bits until you face your trauma and shame. So, which is so true even in the essence of imposter syndrome. Like, you can't step in and overcome imposter syndrome if you're not facing what the shame pieces are or the trauma bit. So you need to really push them. Like, I'm still workshopping things, and some things I'm just like, I would say really the last 2 years have been more transformational for me than anything, because of the certain courses. Sometimes, like the trauma with money one, like, I kid you not, I cried in every class. I was like, I didn't know I have so many emotions. The radio show that I have, like, because it's making me open up and share things that I never have before. I know a lot of people are like I mentioned, like the therapist bits. Sometimes therapy is not the best for you, but it's finding the means that works for you and just talking out loud of things that you've gone through, and have like the aha moments of like, oh crap, that affected me a lot more than it really thought I did.
Yeah, and I think that's what it can be about, is finding the means to talk it out and dig deeper into that. Whether, it's courses, therapy, you have to find what's going to work for you in working through the trauma and the shame of it, so that we can really continue working on everything else.
100%. Yeah.
So I know that confidence is it's a big piece of what I talk about, and I know it can be about what you talk about. And it's not necessarily about being the most outgoing person in the room, and it's about trusting what you have to say that matters, and taking those small steps to, like you said, just once a week, take a small step to write out what you're going to do and how it's going to affect. And that our quiet presence really is going to hold our strength when we don't need to change who we are, so that we are enough. And that, I think that's such a big piece of what we do, is just really stepping into the unknown with confidence.
Yes, 100%. Well, like, I was like the quiet one in class, and I can even see it in my daughter. Like, super quiet, versus my son is just so outgoing. Like, he's not going to have an issue making friends when he gets into elementary school. Like, everybody's his friend, even when we're walking on the streets. Hi, friends. My daughter and I are so similar that it's quite like, huh. So, like, for me, like, when you're talking about your boys, of like how to build, like, show them about the imposter syndrome, or even the confidence, it's, kids make you, I want to say, be a better person. Like, we are, like, we're always trying to workshop, but like, when you kind of see the highlights, sometimes you're like, oh, like, sometimes like a quick flashback, I'm like, I don't want her or him to experience that. How can I fix it?
Yeah, and it's so true. We go, oh no, I don't want that to happen. But it's really about having conversations with them that maybe you've never had with, and like, you never had, like, your parents never had with you. And I think the conversations are important, and even having them with younger kids because they pick up so much. My 7-year-old he is starting to practice energy work.
Oh, that's so neat.
It's 7. Because he has determined, he's like, I have so much energy. I'm going to give it to you. I'm like, okay, let's give it to me. And so he'll place his hands on me, and it's the vibration that he has, that he controls, and his breathing, and he puts it out there. I'm like, that is powerful. And the more we can harness that, the more that we can go, you're going to be good. But, you know, it's really accepting those different pieces of him and not making him feel small for having this.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, do you homeschool your kids? I think you told me that. Or am I
have previously homeschooled in the past. Right now they are in public school. So
because I'm like, did I imagine that? I feel like you told me that. If I could, I feel like for the first few years I would have liked to homeschool a little bit. My ADHD is wild. I just don't think I'd be able to. But in the school system, unfortunately, I do feel like this is me talking from what I grew up with, my learning disability. I think we have made progress, but we're not fully there. And I do think that as a mom, as somebody who's worked through all the different systems, just to always say that I am worthy to be in the classroom, didn't matter if it was elementary school, middle school, high school, university, I always had a fight to show up that I was worthy to be there. And I don't want that for any kid. So anyone listening out there in the universe / teachers or anything like that, and I know we've made great strides to it, but there's still unfortunately some pitfalls, is how can we make sure that we're tapping into like that energy of each kid to make sure that they know that their strength, like you're just saying, your kid loves to give the energy. So that I love that. So how do we make sure that whatever the strengths that they have, they tap into, and we have that open conversation and play field that they can step into it. And I think it's really important too to talk about your weaknesses, and it's no shame. Like I do that a lot with even just some of my team members. I'm like, I would rather know your weakness so then I know what team member can step in over here so you thrive in your genius and they thrive in their genius, because then we're just all thriving. Because I think sometimes we feel guilty of talking about the weaknesses that we have. And the more we have the open playing field of like, yes, I have the weakness. Like for me, like reading and writing is still my weakness. And I talk about that all the time. That's why I have note takers in meetings. And so when I have conversations with clients, I'm like, I hope you don't mind, but I need my note taker.
Yeah. And I think it's really powerful when we can say, hey, this is my weakness and I'm not ashamed of it, but this is how I have tools and people to help me with this. And when we can lean into our weaknesses and not feel the shame around them, because we have felt shame around them for so long because society has told us that that's a weakness. It is not good. It is, you're not worthy of this. But we really are worthy of having weaknesses because we are humans. We are not perfect robots. And so we can have both, and we're supposed to have both so that as a society, we can thrive better.
100%. And I'm also talking to employers out there, if there's employers,
Yes.
not just teachers. I'm just so everyone's aware. I'm not just grilling on teachers right now. It's employers too, because I know I felt like for me, like I was also admin and answering phones, and I get super panicky when they're like, it's just like, I don't know, Marianne calling for Bob. And I'm like, okay, wait, what? Like my brain can't process that fast with my dyslexia on how to spell Marianne when I'm so like conscious of like, I'm just trying to make sure I get your phone number down too.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many different facets to it. So Yeah. I have like loved this conversation because it's really the core message is just to lean into your mindset and really dig deeper and unveil all the layers so that you can accept every piece.
100%. Yes.
So, Brittney, how can we connect with you in different areas where you hang out?
I would definitely say I'm more active on Instagram, so at Creative Dynamics VA. And then recently I've been trying to tap a little bit more into my LinkedIn with different kinds of content on advice and all that. So it's just Brittney Ashley over there. And then I have my radio shows as well, which I would love to have you come on. And it's all about, I started the radio show after I realize I like to challenge the narratives a lot when I feel like something's not ethical. I didn't know that about myself. But the show is all about, it's called Breaking Arms, Building Dreams. And it's all the essence of that we are all worthy of whatever we want to pursue, no matter our age, gender, anything. We are all worthy to step into our dreams and passion. And then we break down societal norms. So I've had ADHD researchers on the show, and that's how I've been self-diagnosed with ADHD. But yeah, so any of those means, you definitely can come and connect. And I love to connect with people and just build a community around me.
Absolutely. I will have all the links in the show notes so you can go connect with Brittney, listen to the radio show, and check it out. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Yes, thank you for having me, Amber.